Drawer boxes. Finicky bits. What I have here is the first load of pine for the drawer boxes. Now, these are 1 by 8 by 10 pieces of pine. Just trying to save a little money. Now, I actually need 8 pieces to do this. But I'm going to start out with it. Because of the logistics in the shop, I'm going to start out with a small load. Besides, they only had three fairly good ones at where I got these at 84 lumber. So now I need to cut these into manageable lengths so I can run it through the planer. And then, believe it or not, a third of these are going away into the bin because I make my drawers out of 1/2-inch stock, and buying 1/2-inch stock is ungodly expensive. So I usually buy inexpensive pine, or for smaller projects, poplar, and mill it down to 1/2-inch. For small projects, both Lowe's and Home Depot sell 1/2-inch poplar, but it's only 5.5-inch wide. So I'm going to cut these down and plane them. No need to see that because you've watched me do that stuff a lot. So I'll get, when I'm ready to start cutting these to length, ripping them and cutting into length, we'll show that. One little side note, I'll show a close-up in a second, or a picture. What leftover cherry I had from doing the sides, I started putting on the edge banding, which is not really edge banding. It's basically 3/4 by 3/4 piece that covers over the plywood. And I have to, when my next load of cherry, by the way, I only need 3 more planks to finish this project, drawer fronts and all that, and the cabinet front here. And from that, I'll be able to get the remaining wood I need to finish up all of the drawer fronts. Usual as usual, I set up my stop block here. It's 18 inches to blade to here. I have my first piece of stock in here, and I'm going to shave off just a hair on this end to square it up, because I don't know if you know this, when these things go through the mills, they have a traveling saw that cuts these off, so it follows the wood as it goes along the conveyor and slices it off. Well, it never really gives you a square cut. That explains where that comes from. So I need a little bit of earring protection and some tunes, so let's make a couple of cuts. This end piece that you see came off of that is going to wind up being actually either a front or a back for the small drawers. That's part of the cut list. So I put this on another magic spot over here and go get the next one, and I'll proceed with this off camera. Well, to start, so I've got the 2 sides for these cabinets. They have to be, of course, milled down to the right height. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 of the sides for the smaller drawers. I have several of the fronts and backs for the smaller drawers out of this load of lumber. Here and here, here and here, and here and here. So I have to mill it, go get some more wood when I get some more in stock. I'm looking for the better quality if I can. And the other thing is there will be one of the drawer glide sets in here in the next day, which will be off camera, of course, and I have to test to make sure I get the measurements correctly, so then I can trim these correctly top to bottom on all of them. So once I have those measurements, I can go ahead and then trim all these top to bottom. But obviously I have these drawers to get parts for, the fronts and backs of these, and the 4 bottom drawers down here. So let's mill up some more lumber and make some more noise. Well, okay, off camera, but I'll show you when it's done. After much planing and sawing, I have the drawer box parts done. Planed to 1/2-inch. You can see here that there's a lot of shavings left over from taking 1/4 inch off of all these boards. That's actually Not all of it. There's one of the bags from the dust collector that actually went out to the shop, and then I sit into the outside garbage, trash. I thought, well, I can put this in the compost heap in the back. So I filled up these 2 buckets to go in the compost heap. So anywho, change of plan. I bought a set of those undermount full extension drawer glides, and I found out after putting them in and starting to do the measurements, I was going to lose a little over an inch of depth in the drawer. Now, I prefer wide drawers. But I also like more depth. I want as much depth as I can get so that you can stack more stuff in there. So I'm going to be using the tried and true side-mounted drawer glides. Now these I have 5 of these in stock. I've got to order some more. So what I have here is 2 sides, 18-inch in this case, and a front and a back, and these are a little over 25 inches, like so. And I cut them oversized because the front and the back of a dovetail drawer determine the width of the drawer or the box, because the dovetails slide into this piece, and so the other side, the side is flush with here. It'll make more sense later. So what I do is to get the right size is to put a drawer glide on either side of the drawer opening itself, so that, and you bring it all the way to the front. I mean, this is going to sit back 3/4 of an inch because the drawers are inset, but bring this up to the front like that. You take a tape measure. Now these have a little bit of spring in them, so you just don't want to push in too much. Just make sure it's up against the side and measure it. And that is 24 3/8. So that's going to be the size of this drawer box from side to side, 24 3/8. For the lower one, these ones here, oh, that'll be the same down here because they're all the same size. For the little ones, it's going to be different. Again, 2 fronts, a back and a front, a back and a side. Let's just do a quick measurement here. See what we got. Now these are going to be mounted back 3/4 of an inch because the fronts are inset and will be 3/4 of an inch thick. That's 10 1/4. So the drawers, these drawers will be 10 1/4 on the outside, and then they're going to be about 7 inches deep. So there'll be plenty of room in there. Another little piece of advice. That was a tip for the day. Another piece of advice. If you use a handwritten bill of materials, cut sheet, or a hand-drawn cut sheet, or like me, you have a computer program that allows you to do cut sheets, mark them. Basically take a red marker, whatever your favorite color is, a red marker, and as you make the parts, cut them out and get them ready to go, to be utilized. Mark them so you don't miss any, you don't make too many of one or two. So that mark your parts. So now what I need to do is get the final measurements for the front and backs, cut the front and backs to that length, and then we can start chucking them up into the lead jig and cutting the dovetails. Now, cutting by hand is great, but that's a lot of drawers. It'd take a long time. I watched a video, I can't remember his name. He used to work for Lee Nielsen. There'll be a note here on the screen when I figure it out. He did a video about when he uses his lead jig and when he hand cuts dovetails. For drawers, repetitive things like this, the lead jig wins hands down. But when he does a nice piece, a box, or a cabinet or something with exposed dovetails, that smaller project, he hand cuts them. That gives him a little more visual interest. Drawers doesn't matter. They're going to be in and out. One of the pieces I've had people watch me make things with the lead jig, and my suggestion is, and I hope everybody does this, learn to do them by hand first. If you just come in and make a few every day for a while, and then buy a jig, the jig of your choice. You got to appreciate what it takes to make them, and then get a jig. So I'm going to do a lead jig. We'll set that up. So let me cut these down to size, and we'll move on to the next step. I guess you know what this means. Time to cut some dovetails. But this should be a video on its own. So I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to, this is not going to be a tutorial on how to use a lead jig. It'll give you the basics. To do a tutorial would be an entire video on its own. Lee has some great videos on their website, and search YouTube for how to use a lead jig, and there's dozens and dozens of videos on how to set up and use a lead jig, all versions. But let me show you where I am on the cabinet Carcass as of right now. Kind of hard to see in the camera, but I have all of the face frames, which are actually not edge banding, which is not really edge banding because these are 3/4 of an inch deep. And because of vagaries in plywood and cutting and all that, I fit each piece individually, and then everything is now coplanar to the front. It required some planing, hand planing and whatever, but these are all coplanar now. So that's all cherry front to meet the drawer fronts. Mara has chosen her hardware. It's going to be 2 bales for the large drawers and a single knob for the small drawers, and she's looking at Queen Anne right now. So that's where I am on the Carcass. Next, of course, is to make the drawer boxes. So until next time, as we start cutting dovetails and start assembling boxes together, I have a neat trick I want to show you for the bottoms of the drawers. Make great things out of wood. Make them out of cherry.